Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talking Tech Creative Podcast, where we dive deep into the intersection of creativity and our air in the path of creativity or technology or kind of go in between the two. My name is Stella Oni. If you have not heard me before, and I've got an exciting guest this evening. I always say evening because I tend to record in the evening. Today is actually the 7th of March, and the podcast will probably air in a few weeks' time. So any tech news that I would have told you will be a few weeks old. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about today because I love designers. I've always loved fashion shows, anything visual, I've always loved. And in my past life, I actually was decorating cakes because I was writing, I was getting frustrated with trying to get my attention for my work, trying to get representation, trying to get published. And I read somewhere that, oh, you could take up a hobby while you're waiting. Why don't you take up a hobby? And I just took that to heart and I decided that, okay, I could try to make cakes. I mean, I'd make cakes, but I could try to decorate cakes. And I was never, even when I was at school, we used to do home economics and I was just really bad at it, poor at it. I was not very good at making things look neat. But somehow I decided to be a cake decorator. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with cake decorating because of the visuals, the fact that we could use flowers, the fact that I was inspired by fashion. That's why I'm excited having our guest this evening. And I used all that to try and make the best cake I could make. But I found out as I went on that I would not be a top cake designer because I met someone who was really good at it. And I just thought, and several other people that were good at it, and I didn't think I would be a top cake designer. So I said, okay, let me leave it as a hobby and just stick to my writing and my talking, which I'm quite good at. When I met Yemi, I just thought we are going to talk about couture. We're going to talk about design, clothings. He makes wedding dresses. We're going to talk about couture and we're going to talk about the future, reimagining the future, what the future is going to look like somehow with someone like Yemi, who is an artisan, who is passionate about his work, and what the future looks like with AI technology and all sorts of technology coming in the future. So, Yemi, welcome to Talking Tech with Creative Podcasts. Your story is fascinating because I read your story and I just want to just tell us how you started out.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me on. It's quite an honor to be a guest of yours because I'm an admirer of your style of a podcast. So it's a thrill
You,
to be. Now, in a nutshell, I started because I was very good at drawing from a very young age. And the drawings I was doing were quite specific. They were human figures. And I would concentrate on what they were wearing. For example, my parents were very social, go to lots of weddings, and I'd go with them. And then when I go home, I would recreate everything I had seen on the bridal train. And the thing was, my parents were very supportive. They encouraged my drawing. And that was the kernel, the fact that I could draw. It never occurred to me that about sewing because my mom was a nurse, my dad was a doctor, medical family, didn't have a sewing machine in the house. And then later on, I realized that in order to create, make these ideas reality, I have to learn how to sew. But I have to come back and reiterate the fact that I had the support of my parents.
fantastic.
And that was what really helped me to get almost like a direct line into fashion.
I'm going to tease some things out from that because when I read about how you started, you said that your parents, because I'm Nigerian, so I know that Nigerians we love to have good parties and we love to attend good parties and we have fantastic traditional outfits for those parties. So you used to follow your parents or you used to like whether they told you about it or you followed your parents to these parties and you came back and you wanted to draw. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was really specific about weddings. I just had a fascination for the whole bridal train, the excitement of waiting for the bride to arrive. And then, because in Nigeria at that time, you would have little bride, flower girl, balloon girl, bridesmaid. Also, you had all the members of your family. Now it's very pared down nowadays. But in those days, it was a whole procession. I was
Mm-hmm.
just fascinated. And then the bride comes last. And then sometimes the chief bridesmaid will be behind her. And I was just fascinated. So I'd get home and then I'll draw them and I'll draw it almost in profile, like Egyptian hieroglyphics from the side view. So that way you can see the way the front is, the way the back is, and just exactly the way they lined up to come in. That was how it started. And
Mm-hmm.
then afterwards, I started just drawing figures, but with ideas from my head, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe things I had seen, but I just changed it a little bit. The idea of design wasn't a thing for me. This was just something I was doing. Like
Mm-hmm.
draw, and I was quite good at it. And then it got to the part where my mom had a seamstress. Sometimes she wants something to make something. Oh, Yemi, could you sketch something for me? And some
Mm-hmm.
of her friends as well. So even back then I was called designer. But when I did my when I did my O levels, so I don't know what it is this modern days, but you're normally around 15 at that time.
Yeah.
I didn't give my parents grace. I assumed that they would be like most Nigerian parents. So I hedged my bets. I thought, oh, I was going to be an architect because one of my uncles was an architect, a very brilliant architect. I thought, okay, I'll do architecture because I was good at technical drawing. I was
Mm-hmm.
fantastic at art. I always got A's in art, but technical drawing, again, you're using your hand, you're drawing things, but you're using T-squares and there's quite a bit of math. But the thing was, I was hopeless at maths, physics, all the science subjects. So luckily for me, when I did O levels, I had enough art subject. I did art, I did geography, literature, and those were termed as art subjects,
Yes.
as well as the math, physics. So the results came back, and of course, I failed. I failed all the science subjects, but then I got A's in literature, art, technical drawing, geography. So my dad said, okay, what are we going to do with this result? I said to him, the honest truth is, if I repeat these science subjects, I'm going to fail because they are not entering my
We're not
head.
the
And I was like, oh, fashion design, thinking that the heavens would fall. But no, he was like, okay, where is the best place to do? Because their philosophy
wow.
is that whatever you want to do it, but do it to the best of your ability. That is what they ask. Just excel or try your best to excel.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, there wasn't a university. Okay, having said I had the support to do fashion, you had to go to university because
Okay. To do a
apart from what
subject,
you
yes.
study, yes, they were not going to compromise on that. Because apart from what you study, critical thinking, the whole experience and the qualifications is quite vital. As flexible as they were not going to compromise on that. But there wasn't a university in Nigeria that did fashion at that time.
No, they didn't.
Although having said that, there was one in Maiduguri, but I wasn't going to Maiduguri. No, I was like, no, I'm not going to
Yeah.
Maiduguri. So the compromise was I would study fine art
Hmm.
and I would major in textile design because textile
Okay.
design has some sort of relationship with fashion. And then afterwards, my dad said, where's the best place to study fashion? And I said, Paris, because I just thought, yeah, Paris is the best place. So he said, okay. So that was going to be the plan.
Mhm.
Plan was to study, you get your degree, and then you go and do your fashion.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, my father passed away very suddenly in my second year of university. So
My God.
the uncle that I talked about, the architect, he
Mhm.
then stepped up and told my mom, don't worry, I'm going to fulfill my brother's promise.
That's him.
But he had children that were in boarding school in England. So he said, if I can get to school in England, then he'd pay for it. So that's how I
Hmm.
ended up going to England. But the important thing is that throughout my period in university, quite frankly, I was marking time because I knew this was just a
This was
stepstone.
where you wanted to go. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
You knew what you
Exactly.
wanted from day
Yes, I
one.
did. I did from
Oh,
day one.
beautiful.
I
Hmm.
thought I would have to go through the whole 4 years and then start creating things. And then the second year, there was this woman. I knew her then as Agnes Bassi. She's now known as Itwen Bassi. A
Oh,
brilliant Nigerian, yes, a brilliant Nigerian designer. She went to University of Ife.
oh,
She belonged to a club, and these social clubs, they used to do like variety nights. And there was a big hall in University of Ife called Oduduwa Hall. University of Ife is now called Obafemi Awolowo University, but I'm really
okay.
old school. I'll always refer to it as University of Ife. So she came up with this, she did this fashion show with clothes she made herself, and she had her
Wow.
friends or people she knew modeled, and it was like an epiphany. I was like, oh my God. She was studying English, and she came up with this brilliant, cohesive, fantastic, the music, the choreography. I was like, ah, it was just amazing. So
Wow.
it was a light bulb moment for me that, oh my God, I don't have to wait to
Keep,
finish university. If I can do this, I can start doing my fashion now. But
wow.
I didn't know how to sew. But I mean, I'd always been drawing. I had all these designs, but I just thought they're
The
just designs.
sewing.
They're not
Yeah,
going to
the
go
sewing.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And I also have to point out that one of my contemporaries at university was Adebayo Jones. Oh, yes,
Mm,
Adebayo Jones, another
nice.
brilliant
Love his
designer of
designs. Wow.
Yes, we were. It was an amazing time.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one of my seniors in my art department just took a liking for me,
Mm-hmm.
and she gave me 500 naira. Now at that time, the naira was, I think, 1 naira to a dollar to 2 naira. So it was like when naira was naira in
Yeah.
the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So with that 500 naira, I bought fabrics, went to my mom's seamstress, and gave her some designs to make up into, I guess, like samples for fashion show. But it's still, she wasn't able to translate everything exactly
Yeah.
as I wanted.
Yeah.
So that
And we're
also,
very precise.
yeah. So that also reinforced to me that it's very important that I'm able to do this myself. It's one thing to design,
Another
but
thing
if you
to
read to
translate it.
someone and you can't say this is how it's done, they can either tell you, oh, this cannot be done or it's not possible. So I realized that yes, it's very important for me to know how to do this. Even if in the future I have people working for me, I
Mm-hmm.
must be able to say, stand up from there, let me show you how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So to wrap up, after I graduated, did my youth service in Jos, which was a fantastic experience for me because I knew this again is just for a year. So I was a teacher. I taught art in this school, and I
Ooh.
wanted to make sure the students had the experience I had when I was in school because art was like a refuge. So
Mm.
I bent over backwards, made sure my art class was an experience for my students. But there
Wow.
was, if that was going to be my career, I might have been a bit cynical, but I knew I was only going to be there for a year. So I was
Mm-hmm.
able to pour out, and I know my students had a great time. And then shortly afterwards, I traveled to England and I went to my fashion school.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's interesting because I want to know your experience because number one, there will be the culture shock. When I say culture shock, I'm not talking about just you coming from Nigeria, but I'm talking about in terms of even the fashion school itself, in terms of the discipline, in terms of the transition between art now to fashion. So there'll be a kind of learning curve there, and I'm quite interested in how you did that.
Yes, okay. So I'm going to say two things. One, because I'd done 4 years to get my bachelor's in fine art, majoring in textiles. I didn't want to do another 4 years in a fashion university in the UK. So I got
Okay.
myself a private school. It's called the Paris Academy School of Fashion. Very well
Mhm.
established at that time, an old school. One of my friend's grandmother went to that school. And because it was a private school, you
Mhm.
pay your fees and you're in. So
Okay.
I had to reassure myself that I'm not deceiving myself with this fashion design thing I want to do. So I went through the process of applying to London College of Fashion just to see if I would get in. Went through the whole process, submitted my portfolio, and I was accepted. So that
Mhm.
just gave me some reassurance that it's not because my mom says, "Oh, your designs are fantastic." My mom would tell
Wanted
me my designs are fantastic regard
validation from
to
elsewhere.
get
Yeah.
that independent.
Evaluation.
Exactly, validation, to be
Yeah.
honest. So I started, and as I did mention, we didn't have a sewing machine in our house. So first day of fashion school, they sat me in front of this machine and they threaded the machine. And I was like, oh my God, I've wasted my uncle's money. Oh my goodness. What
Don't
have I
make
done?
it so.
I would never, yeah,
I don't-
I'm telling you, it was like,
They're making you into an obioma.
it was, how will I learn this? Learning how to drive a car on top of a hill that is snowing, it was just so complicated. But you see, uh, my desire to learn took over. I'm very quickly, I learned everything, but I did panic. That first day, I was like, oh my goodness, what have I done? What have I done? I've made a mistake. But I was just so eager to learn that tutors spotted that and they actually went out of their curriculum because they had a strict curriculum to follow. So that you do, let's say, a standard and then you go to advanced. But at the end of the year, you do a fashion show and technically whatever you design and make goes into the fashion show. So I deliberately designed things that were really advanced. But they turned it back and taught me, they showed me how to do it because they could just see I was soaking up everything. Every day I woke up, I tell you, I
You
was,
were happy to wake
am I, I'm
Yeah.
telling you,
Yeah.
is this a dream? I'm living out my fantasy. This is amazing. I'm walking down, and my school was on Oxford Street in front of John Lewis. In fact, it was also in front of,
Around there. Yeah.
yes, it was in front of London College of Fashion. So it was just amazing. And I just soaked in everything. And I did women's wear. And that is where they taught us, apart from the sewing machine thing I told you, there was this tutor that said, look, the most important thing is the finishing of your garment, apart from the style, that if they turn the dress inside out, it has to be perfect on the inside as it is on the outside. That really stuck to me. And that's where it was more geared towards couture, bespoke work, not towards ready to wear. It was very specific. So you take the body measurement, you make a flat pattern, from the flat pattern, you create the patterns that make up the dress of whatever design you're doing. And that was a very good grounding for me. I did women's wear, and then I also did a course of men's wear. And then that I graduated and
Awesome.
started.
So
Yeah.
then you finished because I really want to follow this journey. And then what
Yes.
happened? And then what next?
Okay, so in the early 90s, there was a recession in the UK, a really bad recession. And the government was encouraging people to be self-employed. So when I graduated, I got myself a machine and an overlocker. I guess some people call it a serger. It's what you knit in the edges of things. I was making just bits and bobs for family friends. I had a job, like a 9 to 5 at that time. And after a year, right from when I graduated, I started writing letters because again, that dates me a bit. This were physical letters. I didn't even type them. I wrote them by hand. And
Oh,
put it in an
beautiful.
envelope and posted it to potential employers. But because of the recession, nobody was hiring. Nobody was hiring. So I thought, no, I'm just eager to start. I'm eager to start. So the government was doing this. They offered this course through, I think it was Business Links. I'm not sure if it exists anymore in the UK. And it was a 6-week course free of charge where they taught marketing, accounting, bookkeeping. They taught the rudiments of running a business. And they said, no matter how, regardless of what you are doing, it really doesn't matter. You're running a business.
Must know this.
If you don't run it as a business, if you don't do these mundane things, if you don't do your pricing, make sure it's viable, all those things, your business would fail. And that stuck in my mind that I have to succeed. And another driver was I wasn't going to give anybody the excuse to say to my parents, this child is supported. This is the end of it. I had to succeed. That was just it. I mean, apart from the fact that I loved what I was doing, but that was a driver. I have to succeed. So I picked a date, 1st of September, 1991, wrote to the tax office and said, okay, that's my starting date. Got a little studio off Grazing Road. Yes, I'm my studio. And I opened my door 1st of September 1991. So because of, I wouldn't say fear, but just I have to take everything that comes in. But you
Yes.
have to remember that I was taught bespoke, time consuming. So very quickly I realized doing casual wear just was not viable. You can go to Topshop and buy something for £10. That the amount of time it's going to cost me to do a pattern, it's just not going to work. The pricing is not going to work. And then I also realized I hated doing menswear. I just found it really boring. I found it was boring, but also labor intensive as well. But when I'm making a gown and it's a beautiful dress and it will come out really well, that gives me joy and I can see the effect I'm having on my clients. But working on this suit, and I didn't want to create like avant-garde flamboyant. I didn't want to do costume. I wanted wearable, classic
I'll take care.
outfits. Yeah. So I said that I'm not going to do menswear because I don't like doing it, and also casual. So that's how I actually started going into bridal and I call it special occasion wear. So evening wear, you're going to a gala, whatever you're, the reason why you're doing it, really none of my business. You are either you're coming to me for a gown for an occasion. I think psychologically people are prepared to pay for that. So
Mhm.
it was a business decision, but also my designs lent themselves to that. So it was a perfect mix of my design style, but also a business
Yes.
yes, which is why I'm still here after 34 years in business.
Wow. So, what was your breakthrough moments? Because you were kind of like doing this, clients were coming slowly. So, when was that breakthrough that you now knew that yes, I'm in business now?
I guess the time when, okay, so it was very important for me that being in the UK, being a black designer, I really didn't let that be like a hindrance or let racism or whatever. No, whatever as long as you do good, if people don't like you personally, if they like your work, they'll buy for you. But when it came to like Nigerian clients, either Nigerian clients that are based in the UK or even Nigerian clients in Nigeria, I decided within myself that I have to I have to break this thought. It doesn't happen now, just like Afrobeats and the music, everybody embraces Nigerian music. It's the best thing since Christmas. But back then, there was this bias that established Western designers were best, Nigerian designers are almost an afterthought. For example, somebody will come to you carrying a Birkin bag or carrying a Chanel bag, then we'll be trying to price a dress or
Oh
a
yeah, trying
design.
to
Meanwhile, this
figure.
person will go into a shop or go into another designer. They wouldn't even see the designer. They would see maybe the head of sales or something, and whatever that woman or person puts in front of them as the price, they accept. But then they come to a Nigerian designer and it's okay, no, we are dealing with something different. We can haggle, and that really, I don't want to swear, it really
Your hackles up.
so, yes. So I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is
Mhm,
I'm going to prove how good I am and how I can stand
mhm.
within my peers. Very quickly, I realized that fashion magazines, fashion editors, they need us designers as much as we need them in terms
Content.
of, yes, content. Again, you have to remember this was before social media. This was when in order to be seen, you had to be in a magazine that
Mhm.
will come out like 3 months after everything goes in. But I aligned myself with editors that were looking for stories for shoots because I thought anybody can advertise. So you have to be in an editorial that gives you validity. I maneuvered myself, I put myself out there that the editors were requesting for dresses. And of
Mhm.
course, you have to make all these samples to show people what you're
Mhm.
doing. So I was able to have dresses that whatever their theme was, or we want, I don't know, pink hue dresses or whatever, I might have something that would suit that. So I
Mhm.
got myself into mainstream bridal magazines and that sort of
Mm.
established so you think of me as a designer before the Nigerian part comes in. That was very important to me. So my breakthrough was when I got a phone call from this woman with an American accent. She said, "Oh, she literally almost ordered a Vera Wang dress, and then she saw this picture of one of my dresses that, oh my God, she fell in love with it." And
Mm.
explained to her, look, this is this is the way I do things. I take your measurement, you come for a fitting, and normally if there's the fitting is called like a prototype in fabric
Mhm.
called Calico, and whatever fitting issues, I normally do a second one just to make sure it's perfect before we actually start on the
Mhm.
main outfit. Anyway, she flew from US to
Mhm.
came for the fittings, flew me to her wedding in Los Angeles at this beautiful venue called the Ebel Hall. Anyway, it's in Los Angeles, fantastic. I thought,
Okay.
this, I'm going to take this as
Bribed.
yes, that somebody that didn't know me for madame there wasn't any a friend of a friend, or she just saw my address in the magazine
Love
and
that.
told me. And I told her this is how I do it, and if it's not going to work for you, it's not going to work. But she flew over, and yeah, that was fantastic. And I she put me up in this suite that was actually bigger than the flat I was living in at that time. I wanted to like, oh my God, people come and
Oh
see,
my word.
come and see, look at where I am. But yeah, that
Oh
sense
my
of
God.
reality.
That's awesome. That's
Yes,
awesome.
yes.
Fantastic.
And since then, I've
Mhm.
sewn for members of parliament, daughters of Nigerian royalty. It's
A
it's
long
it's
list now. A long list.
it's
Fantastic.
been a great
One thing I like about it was the fact that you were intentional from the start.
yes.
From the
That
start, you knew what you wanted. And that is amazing. That's gone.
I count myself very lucky because I know not a lot of people have that experience. No, and that's why I keep going back to the fact that the parental support I had really helped.
Mhm.
Any pushback. So I was able to start very early. As I said, the 9 to 5 I was working as a security guard, so that doesn't really count. I've never worked for anyone. I
Mhm.
just threw myself in, but and lots of people will either do something else and then circle back to fashion. I don't encourage that. I have a lot of interns that I meant that come through my door, and I
Mhm.
always tell them it worked for me, but I wouldn't advise you to do it that way. It's best if you go and work for someone because whatever you learn, it's very important to learn in school, formal education or whatever you're doing. But in real life, working for a business is entirely different. And it's best to learn that under somebody else's tutelage before you throw yourself in. Because you might
Mhm.
even decide, oh, this is not for me. I want to do
Mhm.
something else. So I always encourage young people, if you can, get some apprenticeship
Yeah,
first.
yeah, that's important. Yeah, learn under someone. Because I
Yes.
think most people, that's what you do. You go and learn. Because if you don't learn, how are you going to
Yeah,
then?
I made some crazy mistakes, like deposits and payments and letting
Mm.
the dress go out before it's been fully paid for. But
Mm.
I'm the sort of person that each mistake, I see it as a learning curve. I
Mm.
learn from it. I brush myself down and I say to myself, that would never happen again. Even when it comes to contracts, for a very long time, I resisted contracts because wedding dresses is all marshmallows and lovely. It all be nice, but I realized after again another incident that right, okay, the contract protects me as well as my client, and it also just makes you more professional, really. So yes, I have a very airtight contract, but it's
That's
not. Yeah,
So I'm just going to, because if there was a question I was going to ask, because it's a highly competitive niche, but of course you've
yeah.
answered the question of how you started. So I know that you use corsetry in your design, and I've seen it almost like I don't know, a prevalence or a big trend now in Nigeria where they're
Yeah.
using that now. I just want you to comment on that because
So for me, when I was very young, I used to go through encyclopedias, very fascinated with designers like Dior. This is Dior of the 50s
Mhm.
and Saint Laurent. The way they used to create their outfits, there's so much happening inside that nobody will ever see it unless you take a scissors and cut through to see how much goes on. But it's almost like engineering, the boning, the way the pattern's done, but all to create this shape for the person wearing the dress that
Mhm.
almost creates like a hourglass silhouette. And I was really fascinated with that. Also, some dresses you wonder to yourself, how is this thing even standing up? It's as if what is holding it is almost defying gravity. I always love that idea. So after my fashion school, and I'm the sort of person I believe you are you always are constantly learning.
Yes,
When you
absolutely.
think you've learned everything, that's a huge mistake. You are constantly learning. So I did some courses in corsetry. Some of them were like a week, some of them for a day, but
Mhm.
I always honed onto that because I wanted the person wearing my dress to look and feel their very best. Again, you have to remember that I have always made dresses for a particular purpose, not that you're just going to buy to put in your wardrobe. It's either for your wedding or for maybe an award ceremony or for a red carpet. So it's an occasion that everybody's looking at you and you want to look your best. And I want to help my client to achieve that. So over the years, I have honed in the corsetry skills. But I
Okay.
am impressed, as you said, especially when it comes to Nigerian designers, that yes, the corsetry is I'm very impressed with the way it's being done, and there are some people doing amazing work,
Yeah.
really.
I've seen
And
some
I
really,
say that despite the constraints that they have,
yeah,
you know,
the creativity. There's so
yeah.
much creativity in the country. I want to talk about, I was going to ask you about the ultimate wedding dress. Do you think you've already done it?
Because I'm creating for an individual and everyone is different, where they're getting married, what time of year, religious elements, social elements, their budget. It's a really difficult question, but if I had to just come up with something, I guess if someone had unlimited budget, and then
Mm.
I could actually get the fabrics made. So it's not like I'm going to go and buy the fabric. You get the fabric
So,
constructed using either modern techniques or whatever, and then the beading you have access to a workshop where beading can be done for that dress, and then the seamstresses or the sewers that can create this design. I'm sure I can come up with something amazing, but it has to be for a person in front of me. That's why I can't go into detail about the design because it's design. It's led by the client. I can't just imagine some. There are so many elements that lead to the ultimate design, but it
mhm.
would be great to have those things, as I said, access to whatever fabrics I can think of and embellishment. Yeah, I'm sure I can come up
So
with something.
who would you love to design for if he was a celebrity? Just out of the ballpark.
Beyonce,
I
Oprah.
knew you were gonna say
Yes, you know
Beyonce.
why? Apart from the fact that
Already
apart
married, unless she does a renewal of the vow.
there are so many places she could go to wear something fabulous, but it's because of her figure. And I
Mm.
also mentioned Oprah Winfrey. Her figure is ideal for my best work. That
Mm.
is a full-figured woman. You got curves, and but yet I can still enhance those curves and bring them out. That is where my work looks is best. Because like even a slim person, size 6, size 8, size 10, I can still create that shape, but people will assume they will just assume, oh, that's how they are because they are slim. I can curve you out. If you're flat, I can. It's all to do with what goes on inside the dress, as I spoke before. On a larger person, it's more obvious. Oh my goodness me, where did the waist go to? That's where
Yeah.
what I have done. Yes, and it's all that's the corsetry and all the other techniques just to
Mhm.
create that figure, but and the person wearing it without looking uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And that's where the fitting process comes in.
Yeah.
There are various things you have to do. So you just get enough of the cinching without that trussed up look, like when you sit down and then
You look
the
like a soft turkey.
yes, yes,
I'm
again.
gonna say it.
Yes, the fitting process, I make sure that doesn't happen.
Oh, so you've been trained in the old school couture, meticulous handcrafting, and would you ever use technology, because I actually did some studies and I found about six, I don't know whether they work or not, but I saw about
Yeah.
seven different technology that could actually do those kind of measurements. So do you think you'd ever use
Oh
technology?
my God, absolutely. Absolutely. I embrace technology, AI, I embrace it. My attitude is the times when people were writing, you write a whole novel with a pen and you've got exquisite penmanship and it's going to take you goodness knows how long to do. And then the printing press came. You can also design exquisite calligraphy for the printing and then print that. So I'm the sort of person that I'm not going to be like a lot that you want to stick to the sort of tradition and not embrace modernity. No, that you'll be left behind. And I take these things as an aid. I will always be the center of whatever I'm doing. But if something can come in to help, for example, I'll give you my ideal situation. I am doing bespoke work. That means people have to come to me. I have to physically measure them. And then if somebody's living in, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, for example, I'm going to say Saudi Arabia, and I'm saying that on purpose because there's a religious element where I can't even really go there and measure, I mean, like a princess, for example, because I'm a man and there are certain objectives. Now, this person can probably afford to buy like, money is not an issue, but it's just the practicalities of having it done. So for me, getting a sort of program that can get the measurement, very precise measurements, and you can actually, when you're doing your pattern, you can then fit the pattern on the 3D measurement of your client. Precise measurements, you do all the, and nowadays you even different fabrics, it knows the fabrics and how it falls on the model of the body of your client. That is just ideal because oftentimes these people don't want to, time is precious, you don't want to be spending time flying here and there. So that is a way where you are able to produce exquisitely fitted garments. You are able to bypass the just the parts of the process that just takes
Yeah, all
your technology then sorts out all the fitting issues. So I embrace it. So some things have not even been created, but I know they're going to come. I know that,
mm, mm,
and I embrace it.
yeah, because
That's
I
my
think
attitude.
yeah, because I think there will be a technology if it does. I'm sure I've seen some, like I said,
Mhm.
a few that would just scan that body, create a kind of 3D kind of design
Yeah.
on the body,
Yes.
and then the
Yeah.
measurements. So you can then
Yeah.
easily do the measurements. So you're actually just creating a what they call it's not a twin,
Avatar.
but you're almost creating a twin of someone.
Yes. Yeah. And an avatar. You
Yeah,
have
an
the avatar
avatar.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
the avatar, their picture,
Um.
and then measure that.
Yes. So
That would be a good one for the business because that would
absolutely.
yeah. Mm,
Absolutely. I think people that are in fashion school now, that is what they're learning now
mm,
because it's not the future, it's actually happening. I mean, there are some programs out that already exist, but for me, I actually have to go and learn it, and I intend to. I'm approaching my 60s, but as I said, you never stop learning, and I love what I do, but I know it's going to
that's great.
help me. I know it's going to help me to, in fact, it will open more possibilities, open
It's
up more
true.
possibilities. Or, for example, you have a design and then you tell your AI, okay, this is the design. Give me six variations of this design, and it comes up with goodness knows what. It just
Give you
it
ideas.
comes
Yeah.
up with something. Yes, or you can actually teach the AI your design. It can learn, like for example, you might put in like a writing style, and then
Mhm.
your AI assistant knows your writing style and then can write in that style. I am envisaging the same thing that you can actually teach the AI your design aesthetic, and then it can come
Okay.
up with other ideas which you can pick and choose. So I embrace it, is the point I'm trying
Mm.
to make. I
Yeah.
embrace it.
Yeah, in the writing world, there's a lot of controversies around some writers embrace AI and use it as an assistant. You and a host of other writers prefer to still use their rights and follow
Absolutely.
the process. But does not mean that you cannot use AI as an assistant in other
That is,
things, research,
yeah.
marketing, and all the other bits. So everybody,
Mhm.
but there's just these controversies going on around it. And the UK government as well have just done a consultation because they wanted to, they wanted the companies, the technology companies to just, they wanted to give them a kind of almost like a license to take
That branch.
or
Okay, so
train them.
no, there has to be parameters there.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
saying that just, and then giving the creator, people like us, the option to say we don't want that, which is going to be quite
Okay.
difficult because you don't know who has liked
Exactly.
the work. So
Should be
we,
the other way around.
yeah, it should be the other way around. The company should be approaching you and say, can
Yes,
we license? So
exactly.
anyway, I think I'm hoping that a lot of people are putting their opinion enough for the government to be swayed and
Yeah.
not go that way. And I think they will err on the path of anybody, any technology company that wants to want to train their model, they have to approach
Yeah. Yes,
the creators or the creative.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because
So yeah.
I was
No.
going to say that jobs, there's a fear that it's going to affect people's jobs or but then that's another way of moving to the next phase. For example, when the motor car came, the people that were feeding the horses and doing the horseshoe, they were worried what's going to happen. The motor car, nobody's going to, but you evolve, people started making cars, people started repairing cars or whatever. So you just move with it.
Mm,
It's where I'm coming from.
yeah, to create new jobs, but whether it
Yeah.
will create enough jobs, it's something that we have to, because there'll be a mass, there'll be some jobs that are going to be affected en masse. So
True.
would there be enough jobs creation for those people? With another, it's talk for another time.
Yeah, but
So,
I just know it. That's no, it's happening. So you just have to maneuver yourself how you're going to
yeah,
make
yeah.
it work for you. No,
Yeah, you're a software engineer because I mean, like AI is coding, but now a lot of organizations are forward thinking and they're just saying that, okay, you can use the code, at least that will cut short the time instead of all the time that is spent. Because I work in technology, so spending
right.
that time trying to code just once because you understand the code, so you know which part, how you want to customize
Yes,
that code. So it makes
yes.
it faster. But whether in the future the companies are now might now think, okay, now that we're working to efficiency and all that, do we need more all these people now? But at the moment, there's all that, okay, use it as an assistant. So we'll see. So a few names came up when it came to technology designers. Like I came across a name called someone called Iris Van Heppen, very
Oh yeah.
quite well known. Nicola Casas, Julia
Mhm.
Kona. So they're kind of blending, and it's like blending couture with technology using 3D printing and AI-driven designs. So and
Yes.
even somebody's used one of the designers used neuroscience inspired fabrics that were just,
Yes.
that is incredible. I mean, I found out quite a lot. So obviously, like there are innovations that maybe in the future it might be something that you're looking at because you look as if you are quite open to
I
different things.
am. I think with especially with this new generation, sustainability,
Yeah.
lack of waste, experiences, those are the things that are important to them.
Mm,
So that's where using AI or technology can come into play, especially in the luxury world, right?
mm,
So I can imagine there is a collaboration between the physical and the digital. For
mm.
example, doing NFT,
Yeah, yeah, all those, yeah.
NFT, you have a real garment and then you have the NFT version. Or the thing about me is that I might not totally understand all this, but I still embrace it.
Adventurous. Yeah, you're
Or
adventurous.
you have an actual dress and the owner of the dress can have a digital version of that dress created because it still has to be created by someone or something, and then that can be on the either metaverse or it can be somewhere on that you see on your computer on your phone. It's not
Mhm,
that person, but it's the avatar of the person. The options are endless.
mhm.
Or then there
Yeah.
are standalone aspects like these games. There might be games. People
There are
have to
lots of
wear,
games at the moment. Yeah.
yes, and they have to wear things in this game. So people
Mhm.
will be designing for those games, or like in the olden days, little girls will be playing, either they play with a physical doll or they play paper dolls, and everybody's with their computers now. So you can imagine a situation where they have an avatar doll and then they have clothes for this doll, or it would be more like a 3D thing, but they still have to, people still have to come up with ideas for the clothes for these things. So that's what I'm seeing in the future that can happen, and they can be like really exquisite, beautiful dresses that you can put on these figures, and they can also do the hair. The
Mm,
options are endless. So
yeah.
it's just moving from one form to the other, but human beings don't really change that much what we do. It's
It's
just
just a
how
fact.
it's done.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's done.
And then I also see collaborations, clothing with furniture, crockery, bedding.
Oh, yes.
It's the future is bright,
I
I think.
I like that. I like how optimistic you are about the
Yeah,
future.
I'm very optimistic about it.
Yeah,
But
I am.
um,
I, yeah, go on.
I was going to say I envy the young people now because to them it's second nature. For example, when you hold your phone and you text, how do you do it? Do you
Oh,
hold it with your hands and use your thumbs?
I
Ta, ta, ta,
just,
ta.
I don't know. I just,
Don't think about, yeah, I guess I am of the age, I hold my phone with one hand and then I tap with the other. That's how I type. I don't actually use my thumb. But
they
the
don't,
point I'm trying to make is that,
oh, no, they use their hands, don't they?
yes, the
I can't
people
even remember.
now,
Maybe I use one.
because they grew up with tablets and iPads, swiping or whatever, it's going
And
to
they're
be
very
so
quick with it.
easy for them. It's going to be so easy for them to get to the next step. But for me, it's almost like I'm starting from scratch, but I'm still going to do it. But it's difficult. So that's why I've just say to the young designers now, you're just so lucky where you are now. It's going to
Mm.
come so easy. Your future is so bright. I envy them in a good way because
I
it's
think there's still an admiration for the old style way of doing things, for the couture. And I think that would always be a starting
it will
point.
always be there, I
Always
think.
be. So you have a whole load of knowledge. And I think it's just for you to sit down and actually think that, wait, how do I transit? What is the transition? How do I, because I think there was one, I'm trying to think about one of the designers in here that I researched, who is, yeah, I can see it now. Her name is Norma Kamali.
Oh, yes,
And she's
yes,
teaching AI to replicate her design style to preserve her creative legacy.
yes. Now, I also read about that, and that it resonated with me.
Yeah.
It resonated with me. But yes, it's still important. That's why I tell people that don't be worried about AI taking over everything. There still has to be some human touch. Even though I
Mm,
know AI is learning from AI and whatever, but there's still some human element that has to input something that will then create whatever. And that's where I see myself. Or, for example, I say it's good to drive an automatic car, but it's great if you know how to drive the manual car, and
mm.
then
We don't agree
because
with you.
what if for some reason there's something spoils in the automatic bike, but you don't have a clue? So it's the same thing. You still have to know the rudiments of pattern, drafting, construction,
Yeah. Mm.
and then so that you can understand, because you don't want to get to a stage where machines
You're
take
right.
over everything and you don't even understand what they are doing. That's where there will be a problem. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, funny enough, I'm going to quote this. His name is, I'm sure I'm going to murder his name, but please forgive me. Jürgen. So one of
Oh,
AI's major pioneers, his name is Jürgen Schmidt Huber. He's
okay.
actually based in a university in, I think it's in Saudi Arabia or Dubai. And I'm quoting him. He said it was in an interview he did with the rest of the world. It's an online digital journal that focuses on AI across the world.
Okay.
Said at present, some humans are still more creative than even the most creative machines. However, as computing becomes 10 times cheaper every 5 years, artificial scientists and artists will scale. And in a not so distant future, the most creative and influential designers will no longer be human. He is the father of one of the pioneers of technology. So the question I'm asking is, do you think AI will ever truly replace the craftsmanship and instinct of a human designer?
It's difficult to predict the future. Who knows? But I still believe that the human entity is still going to be a
Mm.
vital part of it. But I like comparing things. Like there was a time before calculators came up where people were using abacus to, or
And
you're
it was
writing.
very effective, very effective. The beats.
Yeah, isn't it great to just type it into your calculator and get the answer? But you still have to know what you're doing to use the calculator. That's how I see things. You use the calculator or you input put something into ChatGPT and then it comes out, but you still have to have the skill to know the prompt. Maybe it's going to be the prompt. I still believe there's still a human
You think they're
element.
still going to be?
Right. Yes, there's still a human element to whatever it is that happens in the future.
Yeah, it'll
That's
be quite
yeah,
interesting to see. But I saw that and I said I must quote this because this is something else.
yeah.
Yeah, I think this question I'm going to ask you, I think you've kind of almost answered it. But I was talking about the future of monetization in fashion, which
Mhm.
would shift towards licensing creative skills to an AI. I know
Yeah.
somebody who has licensed her voice. She's an audio narrator, and she's licensed her voice for AI generated audio. So, would you ever consider licensing any of your couture designs, techniques,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and
You see,
especially for AI?
I'm not, I don't believe in like the whole preciousness of, oh, no, of course I would. I mean, I would still hope that I will have some sort of control or make sure whatever is done has a certain standard and that it's not dumbed down or whatever. But yeah, I'm
Uh,
open
yeah,
to modernity and technology.
yeah.
Yeah.
Another question I was going to ask was, if would you, because I know you have a specific style, do you think
Mhm.
you'd move away from that? Would you ever, if you were collaborating, would you do you like collaborate? I don't know if you've ever collaborated with. I love things like I love cars. And funny enough, I don't even know much about cars. I just love the beauty of some cars. So would you do some kind of collaboration that would?
I definitely would if the opportunity came up. Unfortunately, it hasn't come up thus far, but I'm always open to it. But again, it still has to fit within my philosophy or my aesthetic or whatever. But I'm open to collaboration. I am. I believe it opens you up. It gives more opportunities and it just it just widens your scope. It widens your scope. So like I said, soft furnishing, cars, crockery, bedding, even another designer. I have an open mind in these things.
Yeah, fantastic. And I was going to ask you about the creativity in Africa, in
Yes.
Nigeria, Africa. There's so much creativity going on, and there's more recognition now. I can see more across. But do you think, what else do you think could make them be more world centered, be center stage in the world? Because I know there's more recognition than the past, but it's not as quick as I think it should be.
Yeah, it's to do with infrastructure. You
Mm.
have to, that's what makes me more impressed with what comes out from Nigeria because I know what they are working with. Lack of electricity, so you're using generators, equipment, the people improvise. There's so much, and that's what creates innovation actually. It's like a paradox that the hardships or the difficulties, the lack of just the tools we take for
Basic
granted
things, yeah,
here.
yeah, basic
Yeah,
things.
basic things. People then come up with things to, they use alternative ways when they create the creativity is amazing. So if you can imagine if they had like constant electricity, facilities to loans, design hubs, it will be out of this world. I mean, we're already doing great things, but if you then had the things that most designers have in the Western world, it will be just amazing.
Yeah, to
That
go.
that's what I think. But I'm really impressed with what I see. And also I like the way the designers are using social media, videotaping their work,
Mhm.
documenting of different aspects so that people understand how much work goes into what they are doing. And then the whole the fact that again through social media, they can just put out their things to the world. So maybe with things like Shopify, or there are some platforms that you can be in, as long as you have internet and like a courier service, you can get your goods out more than you could before.
You
So
get it into the hands of people very quickly.
yes, yeah.
So, what's your advice to these young designers? Because I remember talking to one of the interviews I did was a young filmmaker based in Owerri, and I was so impressed by how he's making do and still. I mean, one of his films even came out in Prime Video, and I was so pleased for him.
Wow.
So, yeah, with like you said, with not much to go by,
Yeah.
they say, what's your advice to them? What's the message
Okay.
to them?
So I would say, first of all, try as much as possible to learn to get the basics of what you do. So even if you don't have the opportunity to go to a fashion school, and there are lots of designers that also run fashion schools, try and get into that just to learn the basics and to learn finishing and the different textures of fabrics and the different names for silhouettes, all those things. Just
Mhm.
try and get as much knowledge as possible. And then try not to cut corners. Most designers they've gone through certain steps to get to where they are. Don't think you want to leapfrog. You almost like you have to do your time, really, but it's
And then,
because you're honing your skills. You're honing your skills and always keep perfection or aim for perfection if you even if you don't reach it, but that's what should be at the top of your mind. You shouldn't be thinking of cutting corners. That's just not acceptable. And that's what will help to raise the quality of the work you do, which would then be ac- acceptable or on par with international standards. That's what you have to think about and have that mindset. Even if all your clients are Nigerian or all your clients are within wherever you are, but just have that international standard mindset in mind so that when you get an opportunity, you're ready, and you're not scrambling, or you get this opportunity and then your work is shoddy and you only get one chance sometimes. So you just want to get yourself ready, but take advantage of all the things you have now, AI tools, things like Canva to do like marketing or even creating a collage to put on your Instagram. There are some video editing tools. There are just so
so
many
many,
things
so many things
they
available.
don't have in the past. Yeah, that people didn't have in the past just to elevate your work. And also you almost want to think of where you want to head to and pitch yourself there, almost like higher than where you are now.
Always,
Because that's what you want to aim for. Because if you're on if you're on a subpar level, I don't maybe not subpar, subpar is the wrong word. But
but
where you are now, you don't want to stay there. You want to aim you.
it's always moving forward.
Yes,
Always moving
exactly.
forward. Always
Exactly.
going beyond where you are
That,
at.
that's
Because
what you should
everybody's benchmark is different. So wherever you are, you want to
aim
always
for
go beyond
higher.
that,
Yeah.
aim for higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't rest on your laurels. Constantly keep learning and don't just resting on one's laurels is a very dangerous thing. And feel you have to be precious. You have to have very good customer relation skills. And I wouldn't say client is always king, but dealing with your client relationship is very important,
Mhm.
especially nowadays where people leave reviews
Mm.
and lots of people check reviews before they come to you. So your reputation is absolutely key. And if you know you cannot do something, please don't do it. Rather than taking something on and then you have a disappointed client. That's why I tell again the interns that come through me, if you know how long it's going to take you to do something, keep that in mind and so you don't just ruin your reputation or cause another person upset because you didn't finish whatever you were meant to make for them. Those are
Yeah.
the like
Listen, yeah.
basic
So
things.
I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all of my guests, which
Mhm.
is aside from fashion, your passion, what else are you passionate about? A serious hobby that's where you chill out.
Considering the fact that when I was growing up, I was quite chubby. I was not good at sports, which is why I was always in the library looking at encyclopedias and discovering Dior and Yves Saint Laurent. But now, fitness and
Oh,
wellness, I go to the gym about 5 days a week. I'm actually in
so
better
jealous.
shape
I'm
now than
so
I am
jealous. I'm so
have
jealous.
ever been. Yes. So that is something that is quite is my passion.
So you work out.
Working out,
Then you'll be very happy.
fit, yes. And it helps I find it helps my mind.
It
And,
does.
there are also like inherited health issues that, like heart stuff and cholesterol, all those things
Mhm.
that nowadays one has to realize, okay,
Be
you have to
mindful.
work in. Yes. And I'm doing that. And I feel great for
And
it.
you
So,
look good. Yeah, me.
but yes, I'm almost in better shape than I have ever been. So
Yeah,
that's
fantastic. That's great. So, where should like I know you're kind of like I've seen you on social media. So, what are your handles and which is the best social media for people to?
okay.
Mm,
So everywhere I am Yemi Kosibah. That is YemiKosibah. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Yemi Kosibah. So you just need to remember the name and just TikTok. But Instagram is where I'm mostly active and I'm very good with reply messages. And it is me.
mm,
I reply my messages, I do my postings. And of course, I have my website, kosiba.com.
mm,
But I guess the most interactive place I am is Instagram.
yeah. I'm not going to finish this because now I've just remembered about the Kosiba. Because I know your surname is Oshukoya and
Yes. Yes.
Kosiba. Tell us a little bit about where you got the name Kosiba. I know I
Okay.
read it off, but
So
I just want to, yeah.
yes, now Kosiba is actually a derivation of my mother's name. I did
Mm,
mention that I had a lot of support when I was growing up. My
mm,
mother is, I want to say she's my biggest support, my biggest fan. I'm just so blessed with the mother I have.
mm,
And from a very young age, because I actually came up with that name when I was in lower sixth.
mm,
Okay, so that's the first year of A levels. And that was when Nigeria had a military government at that time.
mm,
And I had an uncle that was with the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Culture. So I had to
mm,
do a fashion show at the theater where they did Festac. I can't remember what the theater's called. National Theater.
yeah.
And they said each designer had to come up with a name.
Mm,
So I thought back then, I don't want to be able to be like stealth so
mhm,
that my work is speaking for itself, but I can walk into a room and people don't actually know this is Yemi Osunkoya, but they
mm.
can see the dress and these dresses are fantastic. That is what should
It
have their
want your
attention
work
and
to speak for
be
itself.
made. Yes, I didn't want to call myself Yemi Osunkoya designed or something.
Mm,
And my mother was just like it was a no-brainer. But because of Yoruba descent, we can't call our parents by their name. So
mm.
I changed my mother's name. My mother's name is Kosiba, which is a
Oh,
name. She's originally from Republic of Benin, Dahomey. And
mm,
just like in Ghana, a girl born on a Sunday is called Kosiba. So
mm,
I changed the C to a K and I put an H at the end. Because even
mm,
back then, I thought I wanted to be able to transfer to like an international name. There was
mm.
some sort of African
How
aspect
intentional
to
you've
it,
been all
but
along. I so
it's
love it.
over. I was 16.
I know.
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot of that. Yes. I mean, I put creations, but the
Mm.
creations dropped after a few years. So now it's just Kosiba. But yeah, it's my mother's name.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you know something? We've actually finished this podcast and I'm so happy with what we've got. Yemi supplied a lot of photos. So we're going to just feed our eyes on photographs. I'm going to add photographs to this for you to be able to see as well. And I'll be doing a blog because I just so loved his journey so much that I said I was going to do a blog because those photos the pictures, they can't go to waste. They're just incredible, including his drawings. So yes, I'm a very happy bunny. Thank you so much, Yemi, for coming to Talking Tech with Creatives podcast. When I try to say it too quickly, I get tongue twisting. Thank you so
It's
much
been an
for coming to the
pleasure.
podcast. I loved having you. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and thanks very much.
Thank you.